less stress, more time, more money. Welcome to the Cash Flow Contractor Deep Dive.
Martin, why don't you tell all of our listeners in New York what you think about their big city?
Well, first of all, shout out to Chris Yohe. I got a text from him this morning. He read a book about how to manage accounts receivable, which we had Jane from New Zealand, who has called Getting Paid. And he says it's made a tremendous difference. So there you go. Read a book.
From New York City?
He's in New York. Well, he's in the Bronx.
Okay.
Which is New York City, I think, right?
Yeah, one of the boroughs.
But my daughter graduated from law school in New York last Thursday. So we went up there and walked 22 miles, according to my little thing on my wrist. And mostly around Brooklyn. We went to Manhattan, but mostly around Brooklyn, which is pretty cool nowadays.
It is pretty cool.
And I think I was telling you, as I walked around, I realized I'm at least double the average age of the people I saw walking around. But the other thing was, during the week, there were people out on the street, shorts and T-shirts, and my first old guy thing is like, what the hell do these people do for a living? And then I walked past the many, many coffee shops and little bistro deals, and they're sitting out on the sidewalk with their AirPods in, talking, doing remote work for somebody. So it's pretty cool. It looks like it's a pretty cool place to live. You've been around there a bunch, right?
I have. My dad lived there for a couple years.
In Brooklyn?
He lived in Brooklyn, and so I got to go. I was a kid. I was in 6th grade, 7th grade. So I'd go and visit him and spend time up there, and then I've gone a couple different times, just visiting friends and stuff like that. It's a cool city, very different from Oklahoma, but really different from a lot of the country.
We've got a big building.
We do.
80 stories, or is it 50? It's 800 feet, whatever that is.
Yeah, I don't know, a Devon Tower.
Yeah.
It's pretty big. I've spent a lot of time up there recently in the Myriad Gardens and stuff. Usually when everything's in bloom, it's extremely hot.
Right.
But here recently, it's been really cool, and so I went and walked through there with Pal and Mila, and it's a good time. Really enjoy it. Have you seen the expansion in Scissortail Park?
Well, I've been to Scissortail Park. What expansion?
Well, it's continuing to grow south, all the way to the river.
On the other side of the interstate?
Other side of the interstate, yeah. So
no, I haven't.
The big Scissortail that's over on 40?
Right, the sculpture?
Yeah, so that's in the middle of the park, and it goes all the way past all the way to the river.
You can walk over there, and there's cool stuff.
No, they're expanding it right now. It's close to done, though. So
we'll have to go up and do that.
It's amazing, yeah. And I think once it's done, it
will rival Central Park.
It won't rival Central Park.
Yes, it will.
You think so?
Well, in my judgment, I'm
the trees in Central Park are.
Well, I know those trees will be old in about another 100 years. Or 50.
I think the gathering place in Tulsa.
I've never been there, but I've heard about it.
Oh, man.
By the river?
In my opinion, Central Park's cool just because it's an oasis,
Right.
Like, it's such a contrast. But, man, gathering place is spectacular.
I'll have to go.
It's absolutely worth making a trip to go spend a day there because that's how big it is. It's massive, and then there's so many cool things to go see. And yeah, I mean they have a sky garden. It's essentially where they took a bridge over not the interstate but Riverside Drive, pretty big busy road, and it's there's a tunnel that you go in on Riverside Drive now, and above that tunnel it's just a huge garden. They've got massive trees and plants.
Man, I got to go over there.
It's a spectacular.
Last time I went over to Tulsa, I took my bike, and they have trails that go miles and miles. We were at a soccer tournament, and I'm riding on the bike. Early in the morning it was fine, but later on there started to be walkers, and they would, hey buddy, get off the damn path. So I got off the path, got on the road, almost got hit by a truck, and he'd flip me off, and hey, you SOB, there's a damn path right over there. And I don't know, what am I supposed to do? Just stay alive.
Tulsa. Man. Well, we probably need to get focused here. And in the spirit of getting focused, we want to talk about focus a little bit. I think that I was just talking about this yesterday at a group that I'm a part of, Council of Entrepreneurs, and we were talking about distraction and how easy it is to be distracted today with, I mean, not just in business, but just as a person. The amount of notifications you get on your phone, the amount of time you spend on a screen. We were talking about how it used to be, you're looking at NBA scores. Well, you look at the paper the next day and you get all the scores in a little write-up. You spend 10 minutes looking at it, you're done, You wanted to get an update on, we just had that shooting in Texas. You read the article the next morning in the paper and it gives you all the information. The next day you read the paper again, there's some updates. But now you spend 5 hours getting the minute-by-minute update on Twitter and on news channels and all that stuff, and it's distracting. And I think that if you're going to get focused in your business as a business owner, as a contractor, yes, there are things that you need to do as a business person, but there's also many things that you need to do as an individual to help you not be addicted to dopamine every minute of the day just checking your phone. And I think we see it with workers. I mean, I can't count how many times I've been at a restaurant where I'm waiting on my food or going through the line at Chipotle and person stops to check their phone and scroll really quick while they're making a burrito, things like that. And I think that we live in an age that is so distracted in nature that's a big part of getting focused.
Right. And that's a big part of the external focus, but also the internal focus as business owners. It's something I've had to deal with. It's been a common thread for the last few weeks. It's been the subject. And it's people deciding what it is I do in my job, in my work. Should I sell this? I have a new client who would recognize himself if he listens to this. He was wanted to be a client a few years ago, but we never actually wound up. We met a couple of times and didn't go any further. And then he called me probably 2 months ago and wanted to reconnect, which we did. Came back and he found himself in a hole that many contractors will recognize, of where you're having to have the deposit from the next job to finish the last job. Mm-hmm. And the people on the last job are getting kind of mad at you because why is this taking so long, and you're making excuses and giving reasons. But what it really is you're waiting to sell the next job, and you're always going to climb your way out of the hole. And just that's a spiral that I think a lot of people will recognize. And even if they're not in it, they fear it. You don't want to be one of these guys in the news where the contractor absconded with the money. That certainly happens. I don't think most of the people who do that are truly con men. They're just poor managers. Yeah. And so with this particular man, when I say contractor, he'd do anything. He's building the houses, he'll do additions, putting in above ground swimming pools, putting in below ground swimming pools.
Just as a GC?
Just as a GC. I mean, anything. He would do anything. Because his strength was being a salesman, and he could sell anybody anything. But his complexity, things would drag out for the normal reasons, such as rain and so on. But he's somewhere along the line, and also I'll revert a little bit and say that one of the main reasons is he didn't have good books, so he didn't know. When you're looking at cash, I got to sell that next job to get a down payment so I can finish the last job. The priority there is getting the cash. It's not getting a job that finds a profit. And we can kind of talk about that as being a chronic.
Real quick, I am cutting you off, but you said something where he's really a salesman. He could sell anything. Right. And I think that is a huge point for people to think, I'm a good salesperson. But really, a good salesperson doesn't sell anything. They sell one thing. Right. And if they can sell that one thing and boil it down. That's a great point. That will help focus.
That is focus. This is what we do.
Exactly. But I think that's a big thing that people don't realize a lot of times is they think, I can sell anything, or this guy's great, he can sell anything. And that might be your problem, is that they sell anything.
No, they sell anything. And when you're in that phase, listening contractor, it's easy money. I bid that with 50 or 100% margin. That's a good job. That's easy money. Well, there is, everybody, if you've been around for a while, you've had a job somewhere
Yep.
that you just go, wow, couldn't they all be like that? They pulled off on schedule, you got paid on time, you had a good margin, and it's really great. But there's no such thing as easy money, not
Yep.
in reality. And just reverting back to this new client of mine, we talked about this. I said complexity is wiping you out. He's underwater. Okay, he got a source of money, so he does have some resources. He's not going to go out of business if he manages things right. So we talked about 3 things, but we can kind of describe them, which I'll do. Things that are made by other companies that are assembled on the customer's site, right?
Mm-hmm.
So think of an above ground swimming pool.
Sure.
Okay, a lot different than a below ground swimming pool.
Very different.
Think of pergolas, right, that are manufactured somewhere and you assemble them and put them together. Those jobs are manageable. The production of the actual product is done elsewhere. You get delivery, things like that. We agreed that's what he was going to do.
I was really quick. I was talking about this yesterday, but those play sets. That's another example. Where
that's a great example.
But you want to talk about manageable,
right?
Not for
me, for somebody else.
I was reading the reviews,
right,
on one of them. It said, "There's some really hilarious ones," but one of them more or less said, "This took 3 adults 2 weeks to assemble in the backyard."
And if I'd hired the right guy, it'd take an hour and a half.
Maybe.
Right? I know.
Still, well, then the way that I was in this group, and the pool builder has some crews, and it was rainy outside, and so he said, "Hey, I'm gonna pay these guys to assemble mine in my backyard." Well, it took his 2 crews, and this is I think like 6 guys, 2 crews of 3, 2 days to assemble.
Well, if they did another one just like it,
then they would be
about
faster.
4 hours.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what he's doing. So he's wanting to do these kind of landed things and assemble them for customers, and that's what you guys agreed to.
Right. Well, he agreed to that, but the last time he came in, he started telling me about this great project he had. And it was partly that, but it also included an in-ground swimming pool. And I said, "What the hell are you talking about?" "Oh, no, man, I got a guy, he can come and do it." I go, "No. As soon as you scrape the grass off and penetrate the earth, you have introduced complexity. There can be, and there is, rock down there. There's a sewer pipe. There's the natural gas line that goes through there.
Lines.
Sprinklers and cave-ins. You get it dug, and then it rains, and it all caves in after you have the rebar." I said, "No, you just immediately violated it." And the point being that we'd agreed on focus, but he immediately, I think more than anything, he didn't recognize our definition of what we were going to focus on. But if you focus on something that you can do and you do well, you get the compound effect, like you said.
Yep.
Took skilled guys 2 days to put it together. They did another one just like it would take them a day. If they did another one just like that, they could do 2 a day. I mean, you just everybody knows what we're talking about on that. And so focus on what you do is the major.
Yeah.
Cash is probably the major killer of businesses, the biggest killer. Why are we short of cash? There are lots of reasons for that. But second to cash is focus. Trying to do too much, trying to be everything to everybody. And it's worth defining what it is you do and getting really good at it and passing on the easy money jobs that never work out that way. So in your neck of the woods, what does focus mean in marketing?
Yeah. It's so important because a lot of times we were just working with a client who says, it's very similar to what you were just mentioning. And we asked them, "Who's your target audience?" I said, "Well, honestly, I can work with anybody, anybody that has money." And it's like, well, you're effectively reaching nobody by targeting everybody. Unless you're the major corporations of the world, like Coca-Cola, for example, sure, you are. But even they know exactly who they're targeting. They have it very, very defined. And everything from their pricing to the advertisements they run and the creative that they make for their commercials and ads to the way that they place their products, everything is targeting a very specific person. You'll find them more prominently in certain stores versus other stores because of the type of people that shop at those stores, and all those kinds of things are very, very detailed, even at the massive corporation that actually could target everybody. But in marketing, if you don't have a focus of, hey, this is exactly what I want to sell, and this is who exactly I want to sell it to.
And it's pretty hard to come up with who you want to sell it to if you don't know what you're selling.
It's very, very difficult. And you'd be surprised. I mean, it's all product market fit, right? Am I selling a product that the market wants, that they have the money to buy, and that they need, and that they have a pain point for, or an opportunity that is just so exceptional? That's really one of the most important things, is just knowing what you're selling very, very well. And when you know what you're selling very well, you can build systems and processes around it. When you don't really know like what you're selling, like the above ground pool versus the in-ground pool, it just becomes so complex for you as a business owner to try to manage that, and as an operator to try to deliver on it in a reasonable time, at a reasonable quality, with reasonable service, all that kind of stuff. So focus is tremendously huge. I want to go back to your point of this pool guy.
Actually, he's not a pool guy.
Oh, sorry.
and that's the problem. But anyway,
that is
go
the
ahead.
problem. This GC.
How hard could it be, right?
Yeah, the GC of all things. How much do you think of his inability to focus and to take that next job that isn't what you guys agreed to? How big of a role do you think delayed gratification plays in that?
Well, in his case, it's permanently delayed gratification.
But
well, you have to get feedback on things that you do, and so you have to learn to. It can't all be money coming back, but to see progress, to see order, you have to begin to recognize that is feedback. I don't know who said it. It's been said many times, but I've read it recently. There is no finish line. Bill Gates said that years ago.
Yeah.
He was driving a Ferrari, and some guy interviewed him. He said, when's enough? And he goes, there's no finish line. And because of that, meaning that whatever goals you set, as soon as you get there, you set another one. I know it was Sean Aker and the Happiness Advantage. You have to learn to love the process, because the process is all you ever have. Doesn't mean that you don't cross some point, money or physical point or job completion, but you have to learn to love the process. And if you are not stressed by lack of cash and customers calling you, you can actually do that. Enjoy the project. If you see increasing systems and that there's less downtime and fewer mistakes as what you're after, you have a chance of achieving that.
Yeah.
If you see success, whether that's money or however you measure that, as some goal you've got, you can hit a goal, but you'll immediately change the goal. Immediately. So it's feedback is everything, and the enemy of feedback, I'm sure I've said it on here before, I know I talk to my clients all the time about it, is static in your head.
What do you mean?
Static electricity. Just, you got cash problems, you got to call that customer back, the supplier's not here, I've got to figure out how to make this stuff in time. I have a client who got he bought a machine. He's sold 3 of the biggest jobs he's ever sold. He needed a specific type of machine, CNC machine, to build the jobs. He bought it. He paid. Well, he didn't pay for the whole thing, but he paid money down. Them agreed to hold it until June 1st, which is like 4 days from now. Till they got this place ready for it to put it, and he was ahead of time. Went back 2 weeks ago to pick it up, and they sold it. Not available. So there's some major league static electricity. How am I going to do this job? And we don't know the answer to that yet. We're working on it. But that ability to not have those crises, that's static electricity. Now that's lightning storm static in his case. But just all these things rattling around in your head, when you begin to get organized, that's when recognize that as feedback.
Yeah.
That I actually slept all night last night. I actually have a way to scan how I'm doing, and everything seems to be pretty well under control.
Yeah.
That is, so to answer your question, it's all about feedback. Otherwise, you're just wandering rudderless ship.
Yeah. Well, I'll go back to the delayed gratification, but there's the line from the Bible, to the one who has more will be given, parable of the talents.
Right.
And I think the same thing is true with what you're mentioning, this static and the distractions and stress, anxiety, worry, concern. When you have that stuff, you only get more of it. And whenever you have focus, you only get more of it. And it just, they compound on themselves, just like learning how to do that job. Whenever you're in that state of stress, you have lapses of judgment. Whenever you are behind on work, you get behind in other work.
Right.
And it compounds and compounds.
Well, back to the general contractor, I've had a number of people over the years who are in that, got to get a deposit so I can finish the last job.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure some of our listeners have been there. And one of the things, because of the stress, is you'll actually sell that next job for a little less to get the cash, instead of telling them, nope, you get a cheaper bid, take it. I don't do, I've got to charge enough to take care of you, and that's not enough. So it's a related topic, but what I tell clients when they're working their way out of that, I've had clients get out of that. I've been there myself.
I would venture to say that you're in the minority if you've never been there.
You've never been there.
Especially if you've started from nothing. You've had to do that at some point, probably, that's what the nature is.
Well, and to give them something to focus on.
Yeah.
As how am I doing? People have asked me on some of my companies that we started from scratch, how did you do it? And my honest answer is, I don't know. I mean, it was day to day.
Exactly.
It was, somehow we did it. I delayed a lot of things in my life because I wasn't sure I was going to get a paycheck. Let's just say, didn't buy some rental properties that I could have bought.
Sure.
Because I thought, I don't know if I'm going to get a paycheck. You know how many paychecks I've missed in 48 years of business?
Maybe one.
0.
Yeah.
Right? But, so I don't know how we did it. But here's what I know. If you're in that loop, the thing to focus on is you have to make money and you have to know it. So your profit and loss needs to show that I'm making money.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it won't feel like it because you're still scrambling for cash.
Right.
But as long as the profit and loss shows that you're making money, the deficit, the amount behind will eventually go away. I can't tell somebody listening exactly how it will happen for them. But if you're making money, it'll go away. You say, well, how am I supposed to go out and make money when I'm in such a desperate situation of needing cash to pay finish the last job? Well, my response to that is, well, how else are you going to do it? You can't do it by taking jobs at a loss or with very small margins. You can't do it. So you have to decide to focus on, I'm going to make money and I'm going to have financial records so that I can see that I am, even while it doesn't feel like it, because that is the way out. Anything else will not get you out, and you might as well quit.
You might as well.
I mean, go broke, take your lumps, have a good story.
Yep.
Don't kill yourself, because almost everybody's, most people I know have gone broke at some time. There's a story about a guy in Texas. I don't remember which oil man he was, but he said, first time I went broke, everybody knew it. Second time I went broke, just me and my banker knew it. Third time I went broke, only I knew it. But anyway, implying that he made his way out.
Yeah.
So anyway, that focus, we've talked about focus in a lot of areas here. Marketing, focus. If you don't know what you're selling, you can't know who you're selling it to. And of course, as you've said many times, the most important question in marketing is, who am I talking to?
Yeah.
Talking to everybody, you're talking to nobody.
Yep.
You've got focus in production. What do we sell that we can do well, that the guys don't have to relearn how to do? We sell assembled playground equipment. Oh, great, I found this model. No, we sell this one and this one because we put them together 100 times and we can do it in a day.
Yeah.
Right? Therefore, maybe even might be a little less expensive because you can do it real efficient.
Yep.
So you got focus in marketing, you got focusing on production, what it is that I do, and it's well defined and everybody in the company knows it. Side story real quickly, I heard the president of Ditch Witch talk, at a meeting, and he was defining how, I guess they kind of were getting in some trouble a number of years ago. Not fear of going out, but just kind of declining.
Yeah.
And they redefined what they do. He said, we make equipment to put utilities underground. That's what we do. So all the ideas that were coming in about vibratory shakers for seismic and all these things that they could build, he said, we don't do that. And then they just took off. Now, they also make those electronic things that locate wires, which is a little bit different than trenchers and boring machines
but
that people think of. But it's all part of it.
Yeah.
And he made that clear. We make equipment to put utilities underground.
Yep.
Boom.
And that's so simple, but you know how much time it probably took them to come up with that sentence?
Oh, how much engineering?
They had to have all hands meetings and
and finally the boss stood up and whoever contributed and said, this is what we do.
Yep.
Don't bring me your ideas about these other things. They're brilliant, could be fun. We know nothing about that. Yep. It's not easy money. This is what we do.
And they have that litmus test. Whenever they're coming up with that idea, they're developing something, they ask the question, does this help us do our one thing?
Yeah.
Funny story about Ditch Witch that I think people would like. One of my professors at OBU, Oklahoma Baptist University, there used to be a lot of Brazilian soccer players. That's where I played soccer, that went to school there. And professor had a student from Brazil who dad was in construction in Brazil and was familiar with equipment and machinery, and Ditch Witch wasn't really in Brazil. It was, but it was just so expensive because the import tax was, you're paying 4 times the price to be able to get the Ditch Witch. And so he was in Shawnee, Oklahoma, and there's a dealership for Ditch Witch there. And he looked at the price tag and he was like, man, it's just so affordable, like comparative to Brazil. And he's like, I've got to find a way. And so he went and financed 3 Ditch Witch machines, and he read the manual front to back and disassembled all 3 machines to where they were parts. And he shipped the parts home, and he bought a ticket home. He was at the duties whenever they landed and took them through and paid like next to nothing import tax, and then spent like 3 months reassembling to a T, and then he sold them there. And then he turned that into a business where he would hire guys to know exactly how to do that. And he became a dealer for Ditch Witch later on, and I think did some lobbying to get the tax down and stuff like that. But my professor always told us that story. He went to OBU. The kid went to OBU in the 90s, and took off with it. And
an entrepreneur, but he took advantage of an opportunity.
He did. So anyways, that's my Ditch Witch story. I want to go back to delayed gratification really quick, because I asked you that question, and it's something that I've thought a lot about. And I think, the reason why you have people selling all things and not one thing, the reason why you have people with the inability to focus, and why we struggle to focus as business owners a lot of times, is because we're looking for that gratification. I would think probably with this GC of all things that we've been talking about, maybe a pool builder, maybe not. I think probably for him, there's a little bit of delayed gratification, and he's finding gratification in the next sale.
No, you're dead on. To him, selling.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's an endorphin or whatever the chemical is. Hey, I made the sale, now I got to go do it.
Yeah. And honestly, for him, how many listeners right now need a really good salesperson? And I don't know that he's a really good salesperson if he is selling all things, but if he can sell the one thing, that might be a better option for him than running a business.
Well, we'll find out next week when he comes back.
Yeah. But I think
I had a salesman for a contracting company. He was pretty sour. He just kind of had a sour attitude. Mm-hmm. But he would go in. We sold sprinkler systems. This was the residential side, right? He'd go in and he goes, I don't care. He said, I win either way. If I sell it, we get the job. If we don't sell it, I don't have to do it. He went in. That is really it wasn't a technique. It was real. But he went in and goes, here it is. It's the best there is. You want it or not? I sold some too. Just a story in passing, a car dealer, big house pretty close over here. I drew it all up. We designed everything. It was actually designed down to flow and everything. And I took it in and showed it to the guy, and he says, well, is there any dicker on the sticker? And he went for negotiations. I said, yes, sir. I said, I'll go as high as you want. And he just laughed and signed the contract. So, I mean, yeah, it's focused on what you do well.
As high as you want.
I'll go as high as you want. The car dealer, I think he appreciated that.
Yeah.
He just laughed and hit his knee and signed the deal.
That's
Had
great.
another guy standing in his garage, and he's leaning on a Mercedes, and I'm leaning on a Jaguar talking, and he's trying to get me down $300. And I would have done it because and I just realized, you're leaning on a Mercedes, and I'm on a Jaguar. No. And
Yeah.
he bought it too. But
Yeah.
no, I'm not doing that.
That's good. Well, I think with the delayed gratification, like there's such value in patience and in waiting. I think that you can't have focus without those things. And if you're willing to delay the gratification of getting the next sale or finishing the next job or whatever it is, that you will have so much more success. I mean, you think about the things that are worthwhile in life, that are milestones in your life, like getting married and having kids and, everything like that. I mean, they all entail patience. And it's so important to your journey as a business owner, having focus, that you've got to be willing to endure hardship. You've got to be willing to sacrifice temporarily.
Well, you got to appreciate that.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we were saying at the beginning. It isn't the destination, it's the journey. You're always on the journey. Mm-hmm. You're never at the destination, because if you reach what you thought was the destination before, you find out that's not it.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
Another way to say focus, I thought about a quote I read the other day, was, simplify, right? That's one of the elements. And somebody like Thoreau, I don't remember the two guys, one of them said, simplify, simplify. And the second guy goes, one simplify would have been enough. So simplify.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Simplify, focus, and remember that the goal is, we're getting back to the specifics of it, but the goal is not making a sale. The goal is turning cash into more cash for your business. You can then use that cash that you have for whatever other goals you want, to give it to your people or to do good, drill water wells in Africa, but you got to make it first.
Yep, absolutely. I think something that we talked about delayed gratification and patience and focus, and I've already mentioned that you've got to watch as an individual, like how your behaviors day to day are you constantly looking at your phone on social media? Are your employees that way? But part of all of that is also not comparing yourself, I think, is a big part of focus. Like, you may think that you need to sell something because your competitor's selling it, or because they're going to go with the other guy who does that. And I think in the same way, not delaying gratification and buying that next piece of equipment because you're comparing yourself to other people or what you don't have, what you do have. I think there has to be, in order to have that focus, there has to be a little bit of contentment with where you are and who you are, and a knowledge of who you are, and being okay with that. If you're constantly looking for the next thing to satisfy this desire that you have, or if you're constantly trying to beat out the competitor and match him and all these different things, you're not going to be able to focus. And there's a lot of it as an individual, as a business owner and a contractor, you have to be comfortable in your own skin and comfortable with where you are today, and be willing to sacrifice so that you can have a better opportunities, better business, better team, better equipment, whatever it is tomorrow. So we can talk a lot about strategies and different things that allow you to focus, but I think at an individual level, you have to watch where you spend your time and what your habits and behaviors are on a day-to-day basis. You have to delay gratification, and you can't compare yourself. You have to be comfortable with where you are.
I don't remember who said it. I'm good at remembering quotes. I don't always remember who said them. But comparison robs the joy from life. And that's more on a personal nature, but it's the same thing. If you're trying to keep up with somebody, they're not you. Somebody who's apparently doing well very possibly isn't.
Oh, your judgment is so flawed on everybody
you
else.
have no idea. The guy in the Porsche, it's leased, and they were threatened to take it back last month. I mean, just all those, or maybe not, but that's not you.
Yep.
That's not you. So focus, in all the areas, focusing in marketing, focusing in leadership, which is having a vision. What are we doing with this company? Where are we going? What's the culture? Focus in production, which we're talking about having systems and processes, and this is what we sell. We only sell these 2 sizes of playground equipment. We don't sell all of them. And then you need focus in the administrative, the 4 areas of business. And focus in administrative areas, one thing is a dashboard, so am I making money?
Yeah.
Am I doing all this and going further and further in the hole, or do I have a chance or even a probability or even a chance of making my way out? So focus is key, and you can tell when you're out of focus, when you're not focusing. It's when that static electricity is just racing around in your head and can't keep up and you're stressed. Had a guy who's a client now. When I first met, he said sales were up 57% over last year, just on the phone. Hadn't even seen the guy. I said, that's great. You making any money? And he goes, have no idea. I said, well, that's what we're after. We want to begin to focus on that. He said, well, you're right, and that's why I'm calling you. He said, I can go broke on the beach. So might as well go to the beach and go broke as go work your tail off and go gloriously broke owing a couple of $1 million to people you'll never pay.
So true. And when you're broke on the beach, you're definitely not stressed.
Yeah.
Well, you might be, but not about the same things.
Sleeping under the bridge, maybe. But,
yeah.
But the point being, you can go broke without putting all the effort in. Why put all the effort in and still go broke?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, I've enjoyed talking about focus. For me, I always think about a lot of the personal things, but there's absolutely things that matter. Focusing on the right numbers, focusing on the right market and product and service, and all those different things. But focus will get you far, not just in business, but in life as an individual.
Yep.
Cool. Well, thanks for chatting.
Yes, sir.
Hope that people found this helpful. Follow us, share this, and let us know what you want us to talk about.
All with questions.
Yeah. Talk to you later.
Thanks for listening to The Cashflow Contractor. Check out our website in the show notes or visit thecashflowcontractor.com.